Welcome to Reunite with Self podcast. I'm your host, Rukan. Here, we will be discovering and unraveling what is truly holding you back. We will put the puzzle together and give you clarity on how and what you can do to create massive shift in your life so you start creating the life you always envisioned for yourself. There is no more waiting. Whether it is liberating from dysfunctional family patterns or parenting tools and tips that actually make the difference, we will be diving into the truth and core of things that are simple and which yet no one talks about. I will be sharing with you all the things that would have changed my life massively if I heard any one of these episodes. A new world is awakening, and true bliss, harmony, and peace is possible on this earth. And my mission is to bring you closer to that, one step at a time. In this safe space, I will hold your hand and give you courage and certainty that you can shift anything and everything in your life. It is time we break the pattern. Whether you want to be the parent you never had or make a shift in your life so you don't play small any longer, you will find the support and guidance in this space. My intention is for you to find answers within yourself while you listen to this podcast, so you feel the bliss of reuniting with your true essence, with self, with so much love and compassion and courage. From my heart to yours, let's keep it rockin'. My gorgeous listener, I am so happy to be back with another very powerful episode. I will be talking to you about parenting today. So I'm calling these series Parenting 101, where we will discuss stuff that I never hear being discussed. So it's the stuff that comes very natural to me. It's like a knowing that I feel when I am around kids, when I am around families, parents, and the stuff that are sometimes so simple, but so unseen. And I believe these things are actually they make sense once you experience it yourself as a parent or as the child, whether you are an adult child or not. But this is the stuff that I am so passionate about. I want the new generation to be liberated from all the BS that we went through, all the BS that we don't even know that we went through, all the hidden stuff, all the hidden narcissism, this sabotages, this limiting beliefs that were imposed to us that did not even belong to us in the first place. So this episode is called Not Raising Kids from a Wounded Self, 3 things to be aware of as parents. So today I'll be talking about 3 things that I believe make a huge shift in parenting. And we might not be aware that we are maybe doing this stuff, not consciously, doing the stuff that is coming from the wounded self, I mean. We might not be aware that we are practicing some of this stuff without realizing that might be actually harmful for our children. So these 3 things will basically revolve around this idea. So if you were raised by any narcissistic parent or anyone that you might call selfish, difficult at some areas, or if you never felt like you were supported, that you were not fully seen, or that you thought your family was not a place that you could be yourself authentically, or it did not give you the tools to be yourself fully, authentically yourself, or start your journey to create your incredible life. Or if you just had a parent who had narcissistic tendencies, this will all apply to you. So I'm talking about a major portion of the population. Because to be honest with you, where I come from, I can talk from there. Like I come from Turkey, and I've seen many, many, many families close up. I'm a highly empathic individual. I'm a highly sensitive person. I can feel everything, like most of the things, let's say. And I can tell you, coming from the Middle East, coming from Turkey, I'm realizing today, right now, if I'm being totally honest with myself and not like minimize anything, if I'm like totally, totally honest with myself, and if I have the courage to say this out loud, if I may have the courage to say this out loud, I have not seen like no family is supposed to be perfect when I'm talking to you about this, by the way. My whole thing is that we have to be loving to each other and have empathy and have the intention to see and witness each other, to hear each other. And like the main thing is that we should not take things away from people. You know, we don't have to give necessarily. That's like an extra point, I believe. But as long as we don't take away things from kids as much as possible. Of course, I'm not talking about perfection when I say the stuff, but what I'm talking about is like, I'm sure you know what I mean, like the stuff that parents do over and over and over again with no repair. I have not seen any healthy family in Turkey ever, with different economic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, different places of society, with different personalities, characters. The generation that I'm in, I'm born 83. The people I see born in the 80s, before me, after me, I haven't seen an example of a healthy family. And when I say this, I mean this. I don't mean that a person having two very healthy parents. I believe that a person might have one unhealthy parent, but the other parent needs to be so freaking conscious and aware and supportive of their children that the harm is minimized and can become their true gift faster because of the support and the awareness of the other parent. But so we have a lot of narcissism in our culture today, in the world. It's like really, really crazy. And when I say narcissistic people, I'm repeating again, I'm not talking about a full-blown personality disorder. These people do not need to have the personality disorder. These people do not need to act in a narcissistic way towards everyone. These people do not need to behave in a narcissistic way towards you in order to freaking like harm you in a deep, deep way. And I don't believe in perfectionism. Like, I don't believe that we need to strive to be a perfect parent. I don't believe in that. Perfectionism is just boring, and that's not even good for the child, I believe. That's just like, blah. You know, I'm not talking about not making any mistakes. I think those are like amazing opportunities to come closer. But the problem is hidden narcissism. For me, what I am passionate about personally is to find out what's really happening in your life, the hidden narcissism that's been happening. Find it out, see it clearly, be true about it, and do something about it. Setting up boundaries, seeing what's not working, not repeating the same stuff, and not expecting the other person to change, by the way, at all. But you changing your behavior so you start creating your incredible life. So in this episode, I will be talking to you as adults If you were raised by parents who had narcissistic tendencies towards you in any way, or difficult, or sabotaging, or judgmental, criticizing, like anything that made you feel like you were hurting always in that area with them, with them in a specific area that was always difficult for you. These three tools will be so powerful for you, because if we are raised, there is this danger, which I see now happening. If we are raised by narcissistic tendency parents, we might, if we don't heal ourselves, if we don't truly see and be honest with ourselves of what the F happened with us, with our parents, if we are not in that journey, we don't have to be fully healed, by the way, for this. But if we're not in that journey, if we're not taking massive action, if we are raising kids from a wounded self, that's actually very detrimental for the kid. That's actually that parenting, that presence for them, however you might be acting, it might come from your wounded self. So your actions and behavior and motivation might come from fear instead of love. And that is very dangerous and as much harmful for your child, if not more. And there is this thing that I'm seeing as a pattern. And this is not to judge anyone. This is not to judge ourselves. We are human. We are just learning. We are in this journey. We have to be, we have to be loving and compassionate with ourselves. That is the only way we can move forward. That is the only way we can grow. That is the only way we can make things better. Only way. Not from a judging space, not from a shaming space. Just being compassionate with ourselves, but being accountable as well. So if we are acting from our wounded self, thinking that I never got this from my parent, or this was what always happened to me as a child, so I'm going to do the total opposite and go to the extreme. So that is the extreme as well. Let's talk about an example. If you were neglected as a child, so if you were never seen or heard, if you were never seen with your challenging emotions by your parents, if you are not feeling that pain now, like going through that journey, healing yourself, being in that intention, being honest with yourself, taking action to make changes, being accountable for your life, if you're just like blindfoldedly going through life and raising kids with that place, you might do the total opposite, where you are in their face the whole time, or doing the three things that I will talk about here. That is so extreme. That is on the other side of that polarity. So totally neglecting, or, not even being more present, just being in their face and stealing their experience from them, like stealing the challenge of life and all of that stuff we're going to talk about. Those are two polarities, and they are, I believe there is no difference between them. Like, they are, as maybe this side is even more harmful, like being on their face and doing stuff from a wounded self. And we do all of this unconsciously, by the way. Like, we're not thinking each time, oh, this was what I was hurt in my childhood, so I'm going to do the total opposite now. We don't do it that way. There is a child in us that we don't see our own inner child that is crying, that is neglected, that has been abused psychologically, emotionally, mentally, or maybe even physically. And we are not seeing that child. And when our child cries or, acts in a way that, you can see that they're going through a challenging emotion, if you're acting in that way, where you never see the inner child in you and you're trying to make it better for your child, that's a dangerous place. That's not a healthy place. You are not doing a favor for your child in that way, for them to thrive as adults in life. So let's go through all of this now. All right, so it was a long introduction. Sometimes my introductions are longer because this is the stuff that's never talked about, like rarely talked about. That's why I need to explain and clarify some of the stuff so that we open that space, so that we know where we are, so we can walk through it. Okay, so the first thing that I see that is so, so powerful is 1, boundaries are sacred. Boundaries are sacred. Meaning, you saying no to your child and being assertive in that no, staying in your ground, not giving it up. I'm not talking about 100% of the time, by the way, just in like general daily life, the patterns. Let's think about always the patterns, not just one moment that you did something, one moment, one time, 2 times, couple of times, like that's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about the general patterns. Because the things that we are talking about here in this episode are the stuff that we do thinking that, we're doing it for their benefit, but it's actually, is it benefiting them? ? And I'm talking about all of this stuff in a time in my life, like right now. I've had a very challenging 2 weeks, stuff related to my family. Not even that, like I've had my own health stuff that is telling me more and more things. I'm learning so much along the way. I heard this saying, which like a quote, I don't know who said it, but I love this. It says, teach what you need to learn. No one learns more than the teacher. So I am just a student in this journey. Like I'm learning new things every day. I'm growing. I'm challenged. I am challenged in big ways, but I know they are just opportunities for me to go deeper, to shed more of the stuff that doesn't belong to me, to be myself more authentically, shine my light brighter, continue focusing on creating my incredible life and fully showing up every single day without without falling to the illusions of the quote unquote family stuff, in a very loving way. So the first one is boundaries are sacred. You creating boundaries for your child, you saying no to things. It can be like very simple stuff, stuff that you say on when you're having a meal at the table. You're saying no phones on the table during the meals, during dinner or whatever. And you being assertive with that. You being assertive in a very loving, compassionate to the fact that, yes, it's not easy for you. Like, not dismissing the challenge for them, being compassionate that way. You saying no to them having their phone on the table while having a meal and that being the rule in your house, like no matter what, in your house, like in your family, when you go out to eat or when you're having a meal in your home with people or just your family, no phone rule, right? And being assertive with this rule in a very loving, okay, listen to this. So this is the divine masculine energy that for me, and I have this very strong in me when I am being assertive with kids. Kids love me, but I'm actually assertive. I love boundaries because I know that they feel safer when you create boundaries for them. They don't need to like it, but eventually they feel safer if you have boundaries for them that are healthy, because kids know if it's healthy or not. Kids know if they're doing something naughty. Kids will not have a trauma if they cannot look at their phone at the dinner table. They might not like it. They might be pissed. You might have resistance, all the things, like depending on their age. Like it doesn't matter when you start, by the way. You can start this anytime. Doesn't matter. You can even start with your partner, So if they're adults, you can start with your child any age. So you might think like, how am I going to do it? You don't need to give them any prize or whatever for this. You just look them in the eyes. You're compassionate with them. You're not dismissing their emotions. Okay? You're not asking them to push back their emotions or pretend that, suck it up or pretend that it's not challenging. It's like that bullshit idea of the toxic masculinity. And when I say masculine and feminine, it's just like the energy, the polarity of, it's not a gender thing. We all have the masculine and we all have the feminine inside us. So imagine this. You can imagine someone else, or you can imagine me, like someone outside of yourself, someone being assertive with a no, saying that this is a rule, being compassionate, being kind when you're doing it. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to do anything to, how can I put this? The toxic masculinity is that the motivation is creating fear in others. The other people are afraid to lose something or to be in a difficult situation, and to avoid it, they listen to you, but they don't really like do it from their heart. It's just a very uncomfortable place for them. You're asking them to abandon themselves while you're doing this. They're just doing it out of fear. So we don't need to do anything from a toxic masculine energy. We are being assertive. We have compassion for them. We know that it's not easy. We know that it might be, different. But we know that there is something after that. So if you are the parent being assertive in that no, the next step, like your responsibility, is to create that space. Right after we put the phones down, we put them away. When you sit down to have dinner, you got to be present. If you don't have the tolerance to be present that day, if it was a challenging day for you, you have things in your mind, you just need like 10 minutes to yourself while you're eating, you can have that synergy, like the dynamic with your partner. They can be present for the children. So, and you're having conversations, thinking that, like, assuming that you are all individuals, you are all souls, you all need the exact same amount of time to express yourself in at dinner table. It's not just about you or the logistics or whatever, but it's more about sharing, being present, being playful, not taking things so seriously, giving them a break as well, having them open up so they can express something they might be challenged in school as well. So this practice is easier for someone who has a lot of empathy, but we're not there to save them in any way. It's just that we are present, so we give them that presence. We give them that space, holding space for them if we are asking them to put their phones down, like having no phones at the dinner table, so they leave it in their room or somewhere else in the house. So it's not just, like coming up with a rule just because. If we are not connected in that dinner table, if we don't feel that safety, that connection, then, it doesn't make a huge difference. Yeah, of course, it makes a difference that you're not looking at your phone. It's like completely out of whack. But just having that safe space for them where they start experiencing something different than normal, where they're able to express their fears, their doubts, their insecurities, their anger, their anything challenging for them, or anything happy or exciting, any celebration, like anything that they have succeeded in. They will start liking that. They will start liking that. But here, so the thing that we're talking about here is boundaries are actually what makes a child feel safe, because it means you care. Because it means that although it is difficult for you to be assertive and for them to follow it, you care enough to have those boundaries, saying no and not changing it to yes just because it gets uncomfortable. And this all revolves around you being present with yourself, so that them having some uncomfortable emotion doesn't make you go back to yes or bend down the rules so that, it's comfortable for you. But being okay with challenging emotions as well. Because what I see from like outside of me, when I see parents and kids actually follow the rules. Like, you don't need to make them scared, especially if they're like babies, toddlers, really young children. They want to do what you tell them. They want to do it. They're already looking up to you, no matter who you are. They might do it in that moment or not, like that's different, but they want to follow your boundaries. They want leaders. They want to follow you. So you got to be assertive in your no's, knowing that you're doing them a massive, massive favor. And it's not even a favor, you're parenting, but it's something for the benefit of all and for them. So the second one, if raised by narcissists or narcissistic tendency people, if you don't heal yourself, you might have a tendency to raise narcissistic children. So what I mean here is, if we don't allow ourselves to feel the pain that we went through as children, as teenagers, 20 or whatever age you are now, whatever challenges you might have with your parents, knowing or unknowingly, we're always talking about the hidden stuff here. I'm not talking about them, like, you being adults and them like screaming at your face. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the hidden energies. If you're raised by a narcissistic parent, and if you are acting from your wounded self,
with the most loving intentions, thinking that you're doing the best for your children. If you are giving all the things to avoid them to feel like what you went through as a child. So you want to avoid your pain in your child. So you're just like giving, and being conscious, being aware of what you're doing. You might fall into the mistake of doing stuff that comes from fear, so not from love. And there is a possibility, this is what I see as a pattern now, because the wounded children have the kids. Now they have babies, toddlers. They're doing everything to manage and make everything seamless and easy and comfortable and convenient for their children. But there is this big risk of raising kids, adults with narcissistic tendencies. This is a truth. There is so many things to talk about in this context, but what I'm going to talk about here is if you are trying to make everything convenient for them, for your child, if you want them to feel comfortable, if you don't want them, if you find yourself in the position like you have to be aware of this. You cannot bear them to cry. You cannot have the tolerance, or you feel very uncomfortable when they go through a challenging emotion, or you foresee stuff and you do everything that makes it very comfortable for them. So you are actually acting from this wounded child because you are not looking inside that child in you, all the children in you, your inner child, whether he or she is neglected, abused, not seen, not heard, for years and years and years in different ways, right? If instead of looking there and instead of healing him or her or being present for him or her, you are trying to make everything convenient and lovely for your child. And you don't want them to, that's your motivation. You don't want them to go through the stuff that you went through, right? But you're doing stuff that's actually has nothing to do with that. You're actually stealing things from them that will make them thrive in life in the future. It brings me to my third point, and I will say this and I will talk about all of this together. So the third thing is taking away their pain is not a favor. Most likely, it's coming from fear and not love, your action of trying to take their pain away, or the discomfort, or the jealousy, the anger, the despair, the disappointment, whatever it is. And I want to ask you, what gives someone empathy? Thinking about an adult, and if you imagine someone who has tremendous amount of empathy for people, for themselves, for people around them, for people they know, for people they don't know, for people, everyone around the world, they have empathy for. Whether they went through that exact pain or not, that story or not, doesn't matter. They have empathy for the wounded. They have empathy for pain. What makes them have empathy? When you think about that person, what comes to mind when you think about their history, their past? Can it ever occur to you that this person had a very convenient childhood, that this person, everything was so seamless, as if they were about to cry or feel any kind of jealousy, anger, pain, heartbreak, or just momentary stuff that those moments were made perfect by their parents and taken away that pain. And everything was seamless and convenient, and the parents were always present and always looking at their emotions and even like sacrificing their own selves and just being there for the child. Can you imagine someone having empathy, so much empathy, and having that kind of childhood? Like, it's not possible, to the extent that we cannot imagine someone having empathy, like true empathy. Like that empathy that comes from like true compassion, that healed feminine, that healed masculine, that is like fair and can cry and have tears thinking about someone else's pain, and that's why they have so much motivation to make a change in the world, and they cannot bear to see some kind of unfairness, and they never ignore someone else's pain for their own comforts. It can apply to anyone in your life. You know, this person having no tolerance for BS. Can they ever have a childhood where everything is seamless, and as like once they're about to go into a situation and experience where it's going to be such an opportunity for them to grow and build empathy and grow empathy, which comes from feeling pain, and that was taken away from them every time. As they're about to do it, something was given in front of them by their parents, so they're like distracted from their pain. Or when they want something, it's given to them. You know, if they cannot give that thing to them, maybe they want to buy something and they cannot. The parents are not buying it, but they're doing something else to close the gap. And they never have a chance to feel that pain and to deal with it themselves, being witnessed by their parent. That is the gift. The gift of family, for me, like the fact that we have families, the fact that we make families should be just because of this, to be seen and heard and witnessed by someone, not so that other people can change our situations and make it better for us, even if they're our parents, even if we're children, even if we are young children, even if we are teenagers. The idea of family for me, which is like, that's not what's happening in the world right now. Like when we think about our own childhood and our own families and all this stuff, it's like, it's so dysfunctional right now. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. Like, people are just like blindly doing things. But let's remember why we have families, why we become partners with someone, why we decide to have kids. Why do we want to like continue? Why do we have these units? It's because we want to be seen and witnessed by our loved ones, first of all. You want to be seen and heard by your friends, by your family. You want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be witnessed. So the biggest gift you can give to your child is to see them, to hear them, and to witness them. That does not mean you need to take away the experiences that they're having if they're about to feel anger or disappointment or jealousy or anything, or uncertainty or doubt or fear. If it's an experience, if it's an healthy experience that is a part of their journey, you know, like, I don't know, first day of school, going to the exams, going to a birthday party, you know, failing at an exam, you being assertive with your boundaries and with your nose in the house for their health. Like, I'm talking about healthy stuff, like the experience of life, living life. Okay. I'm not talking about anything toxic or unhealthy, by the way. Like, like that's not tolerated here in this space at all. But I know that I'm talking about the compassionate souls here. And I know that you want to make it right, but we got to talk about this stuff so we become aware and we are conscious in moments where our children want to do something or they're just uncomfortable. And what are we doing in those moments? What do they actually need? What is the actual gift for them? You don't have to change the situation. You don't have to give them what they want, or you don't have to change your no to yes to make them happy. You don't have to distract them from their pain. You don't have to make it better. You don't have to tell them that it's not that way, that it's fine, that it's okay, that they don't need to cry. You don't need to make everything, all their relationships with other babies, other children, I don't know, whatever, to make everything perfect for them. You don't need to do that. That's not a gift. That's actually where like narcissism is born, because narcissism is in its essence, like it has many things, but one of them is that they don't have empathy. How can a child have empathy if they're not given the permission to feel their feelings? I always want to talk about like my experiences, but I don't want to talk about give any names, but I had this experience where a parent, they have 2 kids, and as I'm about to talk to one of them, or, just be kind to them and be playful, or give them a compliment, or, connect with them, they were so uncomfortable of the other one being jealous that every time I am putting that one child on stage, which is so normal for, in sisterhood, brotherhood, with your siblings, they were so scared of the other one being jealous that they would start interrupting and talk about how the other child is so cute and this and that. And that is so, every time I would feel so uncomfortable. And kids always know, if you're doing something to save them, and if it's I don't want to say it's fake, but it's almost like you're not respecting them to be able to handle, let's say, if they're going to feel jealousy towards their sibling. Oh gosh, that's such a natural feeling. That's such a humane feeling. And every time, why it's so dangerous, why it's not actually loving. It's not coming from love, it's coming from fear. They're so scared that the other child is going to feel jealousy, or, they're going to feel let down. They're going to feel not enough for a second. That is humane experience. If you are present with your children, not all the time, not all day, every day. I'm not talking about something like that. That's crazy to me. But if you are present, if you're able to look them in the eyes, have moments with them, even if it's 2 minutes, that's enough. If you're not calling them names, if you are not doing any narcissistic behavior towards them, if you're not taking away their power, but just let them be. They got to feel that. You know how much power you gain by feeling all those feelings, those challenges? You know how much it makes you human? You know how much it makes you thrive in life? You know how much it makes you have compassion and empathy because you felt pain? That is a human experience. That's going to give them so many gifts. But you got to be patient in those moments. And the fact that a parent is not patient in that moment, the fact that they want to take it away from them so much, is because of the child crying in them. that inner child. So that person's first and biggest responsibility is to be a father and mother to themselves first, so they can act and come from a place of love, not from fear, because it's never going to benefit their child. So two things were happening, at least two things or three things were happening at that moment. First of all, the child that I'm going to connect to and put on stage for 2 minutes, for them to enjoy, like being on stage for 2 minutes in that crowd, like 4 people, 5 people, whatever, 10 people, 3 people, doesn't matter. You're stealing that moment from them, first of all. You know, everyone has strengths. Like, let them be strong in that. I'm not talking about comparison. I hate that. Like, we should never allow other people to compare our children, and we should never compare them ourselves. We should be conscious of our language. And if you're coming from a loving space, you won't even think about doing that. You know, this one is more outgoing. That one is cute or whatever. That's just BS. No one with empathy is ever going to do that. But, everyone has a moment to be on stage. And you are stealing that moment from that child by, trying to protect the other one. And it's I would always feel what's happening right now? This is not loving. I know that for sure. And the other thing is that the one that you're trying to protect, you're stealing that away from them, so they don't have the discomfort in that moment. That discomfort will give that child empathy. Otherwise, they will always want the attention. They will never be able to bear someone else, especially someone I don't want to say they love, because all the narcissists love us in their own way. But that child will not be able to bear, because they're not familiar with that feeling. They were never given that chance. They will never be able to bear the other person having the attention. How can they have empathy in the future? This is just one snippet. This is just one small example. And we're not judging anything. We're not judging ourselves here if we are doing that ourselves. It's not a place of judgment or shame. We might feel a little guilty as parents. That's fine. A little bit of guilt is fine if you're not holding on to it, and if you're, that if it's not your total motivation. But guilt sometimes makes you fully change. Bam, you change. You act differently. You come from a more conscious place, more aware place. But those moments, this is just an example of how that moment is so humane. Your sibling is getting some attention. If it's not all the time, if you're not giving attention to the other one ever, that's toxic, that's not healthy. I'm not talking about this. I'm just talking about everyone having a moment. Is the same thing as I believe in this. We have to respect the younger ones. The younger ones respect the older ones anyways. That's automatic. That was what was told to us. But actually, ancient teachings tell that we have to act in a way that even our babies, our toddlers, our adults, we have to respect them that way. They understand everything we're saying. It's energetics. They don't have to they don't need to understand with their intellect. They understand everything. And we have to give everyone the same amount of time. Even if they're saying 2 words, 2 sentences, or 1,000 sentences in that time, we need to give everybody the same time, so they are on the stage. They are being seen. All the eyes are on them in a good way. Everyone is being present and being patient. If you're talking about something you're going through that's challenging for you, everyone having the compassion for you, not pitying you, not feeling any kind of responsibility to do something about it if it's not about them, but just first being there, witnessing. You know how healing that is? It's one thing to be loved, but it's another thing to be understood. Just being there for your children are so powerful. So we don't need to take away their pain. We don't need to take away that take away the discomfort from them. It's okay if they feel discomfort when you say no. Be assertive in that so they know you're not going to change your no to a yes. What kind of image does that make? You need to be strong. You need to be leaders. You know what's good for them. If it's something healthy, you're their parents. You are the ones that love them the most. You are doing it for them. They always know this inside. However they act, they always know if you're doing something unhealthy for them, if you're just putting up a boundary just to do it for your own comfort. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about healthy boundaries. They're everything. And we want them to have their healthy boundaries when they grow up. So it's not love when you have zero boundaries. You're just, all the doors are open and there are no boundaries and you assume that's healthy. That's nuts. That's very unhealthy and very toxic and very dangerous. So boundaries are good. Let's be aware of not raising narcissistic tendency kids just because we had narcissistic parents. We don't need to act from a wounded self. We got to be the parent to ourselves first. We got to be in the journey of healing our own inner child and acting from love and not out of fear with our children. We are allowed to make mistakes. We are allowed to make mistakes every single day. But when there is repair, it's just magic. Repair is more important. And taking away their pain or discomfort is not a gift that we're giving to our children. And we really need to understand and believe in this. It shouldn't be something that we believe in intellectually and not apply. We should implement this in our behavior, in our relationship with them, and see how much magic it makes for you and your relationship and for them. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being with me today. And I will see you on the next episode. My gorgeous listener, if you had any takeaways from this episode or from this podcast in general, I would love to know. Please share this episode with a few loved ones right now. You never know how they can benefit from something so small. And please take a screenshot of this episode and share on IG, tagging me at Khewela. That is Khewella. Khewela. That is my goddess wear brand, my Instagram page. I would love to know what your takeaway was or something you found inspirational or a confirmation you believe in as well. That would make my day. And you can always DM me if you have a topic or a certain question in mind that you want me to talk about. And give me a 5-star rating if you feel like it. That would help this podcast immensely to get the word out. I love you. See you on the next one. I want to see you shine your brightest.